Okay, let's rock and roll. Okay, let's share. Okay. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see this. Let's check. We're all good. All good. Cool. Great. So thank you for joining us for our July event. I think it's a slight improvement from Zoom. Well, it's definitely a massive improvement from Zoom. So yeah, I'd just like to thank to Dan. So I think a few people may have met him already. So Dan from Big Orange Heart, who've kindly provided us with this this platform. So yeah, I mean, I'll just have a quick introduction to who Dan and the Big Orange Heart is. So, so yeah, they're a charity, so they're trying to help those people who are remote workers or who are working from home, and it's mainly focused on their looking after their mental health and providing services to help those who are working remote and working from home. Obviously, that's kind of been augmented, I guess, with the COVID situation. So, yeah, that's so they're there and providing a service for anyone who's remote. So yeah, if you're wanting to donate, I mean, they are a charity, like I said. So if you have a bit of money, always, I think they're always looking for money, so you can help donate and help them provide them services to those kind of people who are in need. If you don't have money, if you can't donate money, you can donate time. So you can become a volunteer. So like I said before, they do offer some various services. So through online events, so events like this, they have a couple of other WordPress group events as well. Through training, a bit of mentorship and support as well. So that's the platform. So once again, thanks Dan. It's been going on for about 6 weeks, I think. We've been kind of backwards and forwards about trying to get this sorted out for us. We were hoping to have it ready last month, but then some various meetup issues, and we had to stick with Zoom. So hopefully this is a bit of an improvement. So I guess we'll just crack on. So sponsors, so Explore, still with us. So yeah, if you are looking to hire or looking for jobs, I think just go to the Explore. I think the details are on the stream as well, and if not, you can just go on meetup.com and find the link on the Meetup page. Code of conduct, as with all PHP London events, so whether in person or online, we do have a code of conduct. So if you're unsure what that is or want further information, please go to that URL. Slack. So we do have Slack. I know the last 6 months it's been fairly quiet, but the last couple of weeks it seems to have improved, which is good. Bit of chat, which is all good. So if you just go to that URL, it'll just ask you for, I think, your email address, and then there's a short little flow where you can just come into Slack. I think there's like 150 of us in there, so the more the merrier. Speakers as well. So we're always looking for speakers. I think in these kind of the time that we're at now, we can kind of open up speakers to a lot of different people. So not only just those in London or in the UK, but globally. So if anyone's here not from London, I mean, our speaker tonight is not from London. Yeah, do get in touch. So go to that URL. It will go to a Google form where you can just fill in your details and the details when you could be available to talk. I'm not sure. I guess for the foreseeable, maybe 2 or 3 months, I think we'll be all online. I don't know about most people, but my company haven't said anything about going back to the office. And even if they, I don't really want to go into London either, just to do just to do the meetup. So yeah, I think they'll be online for the next foreseeable future anyway. So like always, we'll let you know if they do change. And hopefully, if we're still using this platform, maybe we can even stream them from if we do go back to Sainsbury's, we can do it from Sainsbury's HQ as well. So that's pretty much me. Don't have really any of the slides. Do stick around though. After the talk, we will have some Q&A, a quick Q&A, and then I will be doing a raffle. So that's for 2 discount codes for JetBrains. So you could win a free PHP Storm if you wanted to use that, or PyCharm or IntelliJ. And that'll be for 1 year, I think. So could save you a couple of £100 or whatever IntelliJ, the extortionate prices that is. Hopefully no one from JetBrains is here, but it's a great product. Thank you. So like I said, that's me. I'm going to hand over to our speaker today. So I'd like to welcome Junior. So all the way from sunny Ireland.
Yeah.
So
perfect weather here today.
It's good. It's been good in London as well. So there's been no rain. So yeah, I'm just going to hand over to you, and so virtual round of applause. So welcome.
Virtual applause. Okay. All right. First of all, let me get rid of this headphone. My hair. Yeah. Okay. It's all good now. All right. First, I would like to say thank you, first of all, for this opportunity to be here. And I'm living right now in Ireland, and I am living in a city called Galway. And yeah, thanks to the PHP London organizers for the opportunity. And yeah, let's start talking, right? So today we are going to be talking about implementing reliable PHP based microservices, or at least how they should be, correct? I'm going to start saying a bit about myself. My name's Junior Grossi. People used to call me Grossi, just my last name. These are some weird avatars you can find me on the social networks, for example, Twitter, etc., and the links here as well. First alert: I am stutter, so sometimes it's impossible to say, but in the end, it's gonna be good. No worries. So keep calm and let me stutter, okay? All right. I am the creator of the, for example, the Core Cell project is a composer package that allows you to access WordPress database directly from some set of classes and relationships. It's built on top of Eloquent ORM from Laravel, and you can keep using the WordPress as a, for example, a content management system, and in the other side you can have another application like, for example, Symfony, Laravel, etc., just getting the data from that the WordPress database. It's very helpful in some situations, so if you want to take a look, it's my pleasure. Okay. I am also former organizer of the PHP MD user group in Brazil. I'm from Brazil. Last year we had an amazing conference in the end of the year with something like 100.5 people, and it was let's say an amazing experience. And yeah, I hope we are gonna have another one this year too. I love elephants. I have some elephants here. If you don't know what it is, I am right now with 58 elephants, and this website here, you can see a ranking. You can see all my, let's say, my collection. Here in the left, it are the elephants that I still have in Brazil. But here I have I have no idea, 11 or something like that. I work for Glowfox. We build software for the fitness industry. We are hiring at the moment. We are a remote first company, and right now we have I don't say by head, but something like 25 different microservices, and we have microservices from PHP, for example, the Golang, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, and if you are looking for, let's say, next position, just say hi to us there. Okay, it's gonna be our pleasure. My life very quickly in some modules here. I am Brazilian. I have wife, 2 kids, and in 2004, when I started the, for example, my computer science degree, I had a teacher, and he taught us something that was you need to study. You need to study a lot, because otherwise you are gonna end up working with web development. It was 2004, and here I am. I think I didn't listen to him, to be honest. And a couple of months later, I found PHP, and so here we are, something like 16 years later. I run my own company for something like 9 years, and in 2016, I decided to, for example, to sell the company and start to work remotely for different countries. In 2019, in the end, actually, my family and I, we decided to relocate to Ireland. We are here for 7 months, and we relocated to Ireland, to this perfect weather we have here. I'm not living in Dublin at the moment. I live in Galway, like I said. But yeah, we have perfect weather here. Sometimes it's only about rain. Okay, so let's talk about microservice. Okay, and I will be here sharing what I have learned in something like 1.5 years, and what I am learning. I am still learning, and for example, working with microservices, let's say, totally different approach. For example, I think, and it's changing a lot, right? So first, we are going to be talking about microservice. After, about reliability. It's a very hard word to say for me. And for example, third part of the talk will be about PHP implementations with microservices. Okay, the first part, microservices. Okay, microservices, again, I promise it's going to be very quick, just 1 minute. I know that everyone already knows what is microservice. It's an architectural style. Okay, it will not solve problems that you don't have yet. So, and I would say that in a big portion of that time, you will not have those types of problems that microservices can, for example, can solve for you, right? So first of all, what's a monolith? It's a big piece of shit, and it's huge. So what's the difference actually between a monolith and microservice architecture? We have the same amount of shit, but it's split into different services. You can move shit from one place to another one. You can, if you want, you can clean at least one of them, right? But you still have some challenge, and I would say that are very similar to the same ones you have when you are working with monolith, right? So when using microservices, you need clear implementations, and you share implementation issues from the monoliths for sure. So don't use microservices if you don't need them. You are gonna need probably an SRE team or something like that, because it's hard sometimes to, for example, keep, I don't know, 15, 20 different microservices running, communicating between them, and it's not an easy task actually. Okay, that's all I will be talking about. For example, theory about microservices. Okay, so now about reliability. First, communication, login, responsibility, and productivity. The first topic, communication. Usually you have a sync, right? You can be using HTTP, for example, to communicate between, to do the communication between two different microservices. gRPC, that's very used, for example, in Golang. Or you can use async communication that's event-oriented, right? So for example, in a nutshell, you have, for example, this the sync communication. You have the front end that's requesting some resource, right, to a specific service. And in here, I don't see if you can see my arrow here of the mouse, but anyway, in here you see that this blue block here, it's blocked by the PHP process, right? So we receive the request, and we have to do a lot of different things, call a lot of different services. Service A, that's, for example, doing I/O with a database, for example, another service, etc., etc. So we hold the request to the end user until the end, right? So here is in this result part here is where we are returning something to the user. So the request is on hold until everything is complete, right? In the async communication, we have a different process. We just ask for some resource, for example, to book for a class in the fitness industry, for example. And we are going to return something like a 202 saying, okay, I know what I have to do, and that's it, okay? We are going to fire an event to a queue, SQS, SNS, or, for example, let's say RabbitMQ, Redis. And we are going to have different services listening for a couple of events. For example, the service A is listening to the booking request event, right? So you see here that this service A and service B are still communicating using HTTP, for example. But actually, the user already received the answer that at least we know what we have to do, right? So when service A has the booking confirmation, it's all good. The service A is gonna fire another event to the queue, and we are gonna have a different service listening to it. For example, service C. So service C is where we are sending the notification to the user, for example, right? And we have a lot of different ways to make sure the backend worked. So we can use, for example, web sockets, from the front end to the back end to this, for example, the service A in this case. So we have a lot of different approaches, right? Okay. So async communication, a service subscribes to an event and use the data, let's say the event payload to do something. For example, we have this event identifier. This is how we usually use it in LowFox. For example, we have this booking request here, and we have a set of fields where that we use to process the booking request later, right? When we can, actually. So now we're talking about logging. That's a very important topic when we are talking about microservices. Let's say we had an issue and we had a bug report from QA product team saying that the user is not receiving the notification, right? So it's here in service C. So, okay, the notification, it should have been sent from the service C in this case, but something happened in the and we don't know actually if it was on service B, A, or if it was a problem with the queue or with the, for example, API gateway. So it's very important to log everything that we have here in red color. It should be logged, so we know what was the information that we sent to the queue in this booking request event, and we know, for example, between service A and C, we know what was the request we did to the service B, right? Okay, so don't skip on logs, okay? Log all the requests sent, received, all the responses if possible. I know it's too much data, but it's very important for later, for example, future bug fixes. Log all the data from fired events, the event ID, for example, the payload, etc., and log all the received events. So, for example, here, we should make sure that the service A could listen to the booking request event, right? It's very important. Okay, and log all the important decisions. You are doing a very particular validation somewhere, right? And this is a very important, let's say, business rule. You can log it. Just say, oh, here we did the validation for this, and this was the payload, right? So in microservices, logging is like a very close friend you have, okay? All right, just a bit of code. Okay, so here we have an example that I actually got yesterday with a log that we have here. In the first red block, we have the, for example, the event name, right? Let's say, and we also have the message ID in the queue. That's very important to make sure that that event was processed, right? And we also have the payload. So we have a lot of different information here from the fitness context, right? For example, the class name, the name is space if it's an, for example, online or on-site class, for example. That's it. So talking about responsibility. First, each service needs a reason to exist, right? It's allowed to duplicate code, but not data. Data is so much important in this context. So don't have some data, you just need to ask another service that knows, right, that has that data you are looking for. And please think twice before synchronizing, copy, or anything like that data. If you have a service A, a microservice A, and a service B, avoid copying information because it's copying data, because it's going to be easier for you. You are going to need just to do a database query or something like that, okay? What to avoid? 2 or more services sharing the same database. I know sometimes it's very hard. If you have another service just reading, maybe it's not too bad, right? But if you are changing, you have a problem, because which service, for example, change the data you are looking for, right? You have two different source of truth, right? It's hard. And avoid partial domain implementations. What I'm saying here, for example, you have the domain of memberships. You are going to create a new service about memberships. So avoid keeping something related to membership in your legacy application, right? If you need more microservice, this is not a problem. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different microservices to take care of the membership domain, but in a separate place, right? And the last topic about the reliability is productivity. Avoid the language soup. In terms of company, 2 languages, 3 languages, probably you will be covered by all the for example, the problems that you have that you need to solve, right? For example, you hired Jane, and she's very good in PHP. Nice. She starts a new service in Scala. Okay, cool. She keeps maintaining that service. It's doing great, but Jane decides to leave the company, okay? So now you need to look for a PHP and for a Scala engineer, and sometimes it's going to be hard, okay? So another good tip is use similar software architecture and patterns. What I'm saying, let's say if you are using a specific software architecture, for example, approach, concept, etc., if you are applying the same logic, the same concept to all the service, or at least, for example, part of the service that you have, it's so much easier to keep up to date, right? So it's easier to move. I am working with service A, and I need to take a look on something in the service B. It doesn't matter if it's a different language or not, but in terms of software architecture, I can see what is happening, right? So it's easier to move between projects, language. It's easier to maintain, right? It's easier to integrate. Here, domain-driven design, clean architecture are a perfect fit for microservices. For sure, sometimes you will have a microservice that is, let's say, dealing with data from different domains, right? I would say it's a micro domain. It's not the huge domain we have in terms of, for example, company itself, okay? So share process along service. For example, if you have some VCS, Git, or anything else, conventions, share between all the services you have. Docker conventions, CI/CD, deployment process. It's very hard when you have a different service that has a completely different deploy first process. You need to ask, oh, it's this way, another way. So if you can keep the same to all the services, will be easier for everyone, okay? So now the last part, actually part 3, that's the PHP implementations when talking about microservices. Some topics we are going to be covering here is software architecture, design patterns, and PHP execution. Software architecture, first, we need something flexible, right? We need something organized, and we need quality. and mainly power. So Uncle Bob says that the goal of software architecture is to minimize the human resources required to build and uh, maintain the required system. Okay, so when we are using a good software architecture, we are having more distribution between all the human resources we have, right? So and something changing the architecture, the software architecture, is very expensive, very, very, very expensive. So here we are going to be talking about layered architecture, right? For example, one of them. So always leave options open. Why? Believe me, they do change. You are using MongoDB right now. Okay, perfect. It's a perfect fit for you. But I don't know, maybe in the future you are going to say, man, MongoDB is not for us. We need to get rid of it to use something like MySQL or anything else. And if you have a good software architecture, it's going to be a bit easier to do this movement, right? Of course, it's never easy. And so we are going to have independent layers, right? Independent use cases. This group of words is very important when we are talking about microservices. Microservices, actually, we have use case. We need to do something in terms of microservice, right? So it's not about a huge amount of logic. It's a microservice. It's not a service, right? So this is something important as well. So, and we are going to have independent commands. I will explain a bit later how we can add commands here, okay? Very good suggestion, domain-driven design. To the domain-driven design, for example, logic concept is the book Implementing Domain-Driven Design by Van Vernon. It's very easy to understand. I was with it here. I'm not sure. Yeah. It's somewhere here, but it's a, how can I say? It's a Bible when you are working with DDD. Okay, and hexagonal architecture. Matthias, no, back if you are, of course, if you have interest in this subject and you are not following him yet, you should. He has a very nice talk in PHP Barcelona Conference 2015 about hexagonal architecture. So take a look at it. It's a very good suggestion as well. So about your architecture, about our architecture, it should be framework independent, right? So framework should be just a tool for us. We should not have the microservice or the application built on top of it. It should be testable without any external element, right? So, for example, service A calls service B. We don't need service A, service B to, for example, test something on test A or on service A. Whoa. So it should be, your architecture should be testable without any external element, okay? And also it should be UI independent. What I'm saying here, it's not the user interface really, the for example, design, blue, red, no. If I am running my microservice, my application in a CLI, for example, the console, we should share the same logic, the same use cases, right, and the same architecture. Database independent. Here we arrived in a very important topic, that's abstractions. We will be talking about it later on this talk as well. And independent of any external agent, like I said, service A, service B, okay? So we arrived in a very important topic, that's clean architecture, right? I will be just giving a short overview about it, and I hope it's going to be useful for everyone. So another suggestion: clean architecture from Uncle. Sometimes it's hard to say. Uncle Bob. It's a book that I would say that changed my life, to be honest, how I see software development. And he wrote about something called the screaming architecture. The architecture should say by itself. Okay, the architecture says by itself. So, what is your service about? Your microservice about? You should answer actually just reading the code. Okay, is it about, for example, payments, bookings? Is it an authentication service or something? Or is it just an app written in Laravel, Slim, Symfony, or any other cool framework we have, right? So the code you have in your microservice should say what it is about, right? You should have this clear layer in your project. So Uncle Bob tweeted sometime a lot of years ago, to be honest, 2011. 2011. A good architecture allows you to defer framework decisions. So after, right? A good architecture allows frameworks to act as plugins to the app. So this is a perfect fit for the clean architecture approach I will be showing here. Clean architecture, let's think in our application with 4 different layers, okay? We have the middle here, the center, that is the enterprise business rules. Here we store our entities and how they are communicating. For example, the user is an entity, the booking is an entity, right? In the second layer here in red, I think it's we have the use cases. So it's the application business rule. So if we need, if the user can book for a class, we are going to have a use case, a class or a set of classes that are responsible for allowing a user to book for a class, right? So the red layer here and the yellow one is it's very close to what we say that it's the domain, right? And the third layer here, the interface adapters in green, is where we are let's say we are going to have a set of interfaces, a set of abstractions that we are going to communicate with the external world, right? With everything that's outside my application. For example, database is another service. The environment I am running, if it is web environment or CLI, etc., etc. Okay, this URL here, you can get, let's say, deeper into the clean architecture concept, etc. So the dependence rule, in a nutshell, nothing from inside should know anything concrete about outside. So what I'm saying is, if I am inside a use case and I need to save a user to my database, right? In terms of use case, the use case should not know if we are using Mongo, MySQL, for example, SQLite, it doesn't matter. We should communicate only using interfaces, right? So we are going to be talking about abstractions. This is a huge topic, to be honest. It's simple at first, but at the same time, you have a new, let's say, word in front of you, right? So Marcus Pivetta, you can follow him in, I think, all the social networks with the old Kreml's, for example, handle, username. He says that code is not reusable, abstractions are, okay? So code can be replaced, an implementation of something can be replaced by another one. But in the other hand, we are gonna still have the abstractions working, right? Because our internal layers are using abstractions, are using interfaces, not implementations of something. So just a quick example here, we could have, let's say, 4 different folders, different directories in your service, right? So one, we are going to have use cases, and the other one, we are going to have our entities. The second one, the third one, infra here, is the, for example, the word from outside, right? So if I am using MySQL, here is where I will have an implementation of MySQL user repository, right? Repository, okay. And we have the interfaces layer. That's where we are going to be communicating with the external world, let's say. So interfaces, for example, the third layer here, communicating with the world outside. So MySQL user repository is a part of the blue layers, frameworks and drivers. All good? I think I am here. Yes, all good. So use case. Let's suppose we have a use case called create user, simplest possible one. So we are going to be using the command handler pattern, right? Sometimes it's also called use case. You can have a class for use case and another class for example, the parameters or something like that. So, for example, the first controller action, we are going to be creating users in an endpoint, right? So post to /users, the simplest possible example. Instead, just a tip. Instead of having users controller here with create, for example, index, delete, or for example, destroy, anything, let's keep it in one single class. We are going to be following the single responsibility principle, the letter S from solid concepts, right? It's a very important one. So what we are saying is our class has only one action. So this is what it is invocable, right? We can call that class, right? So this is the main method we have. For example, we received here create user handler, right? This handler class here, it's going to be responsible for creating the user, not the controller, okay? Because it is for example, just the controller, okay? It should be. So here we receive the request body, for example, and we are sending to the handle method in the handler. So it's easy to, for example, to understand. The handler it has a handle method, handler handle. So we are sending a command here, right? So what's the command? The command is a class that is to store for example, the data, the information we need to execute the action, the handler, okay? It should be an immutable class. If you need to change something, you need to create another instance of it, okay? So create user command. It's a simple class with, let's say, email, first name, last name, password, and we are sending everything inside the constructor here. And we have some, let's say, some getters to get this information, okay? And we arrived in the handler. The handler is the class that's responsible for the logic in our case, okay? In our use case, sorry. So it's the class that's going to receive the instance of the command class. So the handle method, this is the create user handler, right? The handle method here is receiving an instance of command. And in this command, we have everything that we need in terms of information, in terms of data to execute that action. So here we can see a very interesting thing, that is the user repository interface. Do you remember when I was showing the clean architecture layers? We are here in the use case layer, right? It's the second one. So we are using here something like a user repository from outside, from the fourth layer, I think it's green. And we don't know here if we are using Mongo, MySQL, or anything, or just in memory storage. So that's why we need to communicate to the outside, just using an abstraction, using interfaces. So, okay, so this interface here, it has a method called add, and I am adding a user, just it. Okay, it doesn't matter for me if it's MySQL or anything else here. Okay, so and here I have the information from the request, right? But actually, we are not only talking about web or about HTTP here. We have just a command handler. Okay, that can be reused. I will show here later. Sorry, the same works for example, another thing. For example, let's say password encryptor interface. I don't know here what's the library I am using to encrypt password, right? But I know that I have some implementation, right, that knows how to do, for example, everything. Okay, that's it. So it should be UI independent. So it doesn't matter if I am running in the web environment, for example, in the console, the CLI way. So for example, let's suppose after creating a new studio, a new, let's say, gym, we need to create an admin user, right? Okay, but admin user, we already have something to create user. Okay, cool. So we are going to be using here an async approach, event-oriented. Okay, and we are going to be running this in the command line. It's a different environment than we were running before, the web, the HTTP request, and everything else. So, for example, I have this studio created event. It's in the queue, and we have a service listening to it, and we have something like command bus layer, let's say, and we have this studio created event, and we have listener, create admin user listener. If we are creating this listener class, for example, we can reuse the create user handler, right? We might be having some different information to create the user, because the user is an admin, for example. But we can for sure share a huge amount of code here. So what we are saying is we are reusing the same handler class, for example, the command handler classes, regarding the environment we are, if it's an HTTP request or if this is running in a CLI environment, for example, in console, right? About PHP execution. Oh, yeah. So here, let me just take a look if I am missing something. We have the handler, okay, and we have the event, okay, and the handler is handle the command, okay. That's all. So about the PHP execution, it's about leaving the comfort zone, okay? First, we always, for example, hear that, at least I listen that a lot, that Node.js is so much better for microservices. And here we have some funny things. Why Node.js is better than PHP, than Python, is, for example, bad. Okay, that's it. So we have for example, let me start easier. We have another approach, another way to execute PHP applications called Soul. right? Soul is a framework to execute PHP in an async way. It's fantastic. For example, it can handle, for example, HTTP request or WebSockets, anything. So, for example, how PHP naturally works. PHP is it has a blocking IO process, right? For example, if we are using PHP FPM, for example, let's say we have 3 blocks of code, right? For example, the red one is the CPU usage, and the red one is the IO. So I do some CPU stuff, and I need to communicate with a database, or I need to do a request to another service, for example, third-party service we are using, and after I come back to the CPU process, right? So in PHP FPM, we need to do the CPU part, and we need to wait for the IO to get done, right? And after we do the CPU, and only after we are, let's say, finished with it, we can start the, let's say, the next logic that I have to process, okay? How Soul and how Node.js work. Non-blocking I/O, it's an async way. So we start doing something in terms of CPU, and then we are using I/O, right? What's I/O actually? I/O is everything that's not CPU, that's not happening inside the CPU, okay? So if we are doing I/O, okay, the CPU can start doing something else, okay? And so we can have a lot of different things happening. I wouldn't say the same time, but we can process more logic in a shorter space, in a shorter time, right? How to install it? Just pickle install Soul. It's a PHP extension, right? So it's very easy to install easy like a pie. So we have, just with using Soul, we have built-in async, coroutine support. Coroutine is a subject for another talk. We have multiple threads IO models. So for example, when we are using JavaScript, we can use async, await, to say, okay, I need to wait for something here or something like that. It's built in, right? We don't have to worry with it. We don't have, even in some, let's say, some situations, we don't have to use, for example, pre-out in PHP. I think it's from PHP 5.5, if I'm not wrong, okay? So this guy here, I think he's the creator of Soul, or he's at least the maintainer. So this other guy here, Luke, he's saying that Soul is Node.js for PHP, but don't write. When using Soul, actually, we have some things that we don't have when using Node, like, for example, native multiple CPU cores support, processing, coroutines, etc. Okay. All right. So how it works actually? We have a master, let's say a big process, right? And it's responsible for creating reactors. What's a reactor? Reactor is let's say for example, the guy that will listen for new requests, and it will send the request to the manager, right? And the manager will distribute what's the worker that's going to execute this action, this request, for example, this logic. And let's say if you have a CPU with 4 different cores, 5 different cores, you can have 4 or 5 different workers. So we have different workers working at the same time, receiving different logic to process, right? So it's multi-thread, okay? And what's a task worker for? If you have a task, really, that's going to take a while, it's not too, let's say, too quick, you can use a separate worker just for long-running tasks, okay? And it's a perfect fit as well. So here, if you take a look, we have the Soul server, the first one, and we also have in this case, we have 4 different workers. So our CPU has, for example, 4 different cores, right? So we can execute 4 different logic using Soul at the same time, right? I think it's easier to understand how it works when we see this image here. How PHP FPM works is every single time we do a request, or at least how it should work. When we do a request, we create a PHP process, right? And we have to initialize all the framework, all the routes, etc., all the, for example, dependency injection container, etc. And we are going to execute what we need. And after, we need to clean up some shit we have, okay? How Soul works? We have the initialization process at first when we start Soul, and we are going to have all those workers, those 4 workers, for example, just executing the logic, the task. Okay, that's why it's faster, and that's why it, for example, can do a lot of different things at the same time. All right. Okay, some advice. Use it only for new services, please. It's not a good idea to use this Soul for that legacy API you have, or we have, right? Why? Because we have some pitfalls. For example, if you have a singleton instance inside of dependency injection container, in here, you're going to see, for example, we add the instance to the container during the initialization process, right? But when using Soul, we are only, let's say, calling the execution part. So what I'm saying is, in using different requests, you are going to have sometimes the same instance inside your dependency injection container. And for example, it could be from different clients, different customers, and this is not what you want. Okay, so you need to make sure that when you are using a singleton, how this singleton is. Okay. Exception handling. It was a problem, actually. I will show a helper for you. But when handling different exceptions, just with the task part, the blue one, can be hard sometimes. And when you are hosting static files, for example, content, it's not the microservice case, but it could happen. So Luminous is the old Zen framework, okay? So Zen framework is now Luminous, and the Zen Expressive project, it's now Mesio, okay? Mesio. So, and Mesio has another composer package, that Mesio Soul. So you already have a file, our PHP runner, right? And it's so easy to use Soul if you are using Mesio in this case. So if you want to take a look at it, and also it's very easy to understand how Mesio is implementing the usage of Soul, how it works behind the scenes. It's a very it's very nice. It's very good to learn how it was implemented. Okay, so take a look at the code as well. This is for the feature. I don't know, to be honest, how it works in terms of, for example, in terms of, let's say, production. But Roadrunner is a PHP application server that, and also load balancer, etc. That's written in Golang. So it's very nice. We have a very interesting way of running PHP applications using a Golang server. It's very nice. So it's for you to take a look. How it works, basically. You need to install it. You are going to create something like a PHP worker, right? And you are receiving the request. Here, between here and here is what you are doing in terms of your application logic, right? For example, calling for example, your use case or anything like that. So you have back the response. You write something to it, and that's it. You respond, basically. So you just say, oh, okay, we are using port 8080, and we are going to be running the PHP application, use PHP PSR work.php file, okay? And I would like to have 4 workers in this case. And to run, just rr serve, and here you go, okay? If you want to understand a bit better how Soul works in terms of, for example, coroutine and etc., take a look on this presentation from Bruce Doe in PHP UK 2020, a couple of months ago. It's a very nice one. And that's it. Thank you so much. Here you have my Twitter, my speaker deck. I will publish this presentation on speaker deck tomorrow probably. And I just started into this YouTube world and etc. So I have already 4 videos. That's amazing for someone that has kids. And if you want to take a look, we are talking about dependency injection container. We are talking about, for example, repositories. We are talking about a lot of different stuff. So take a look and search on YouTube for Grossi Code. That's the channel's name. And thank you so much again for the opportunity. I hope you have enjoyed. And that's it. Let me put back my headset just to listen if we have someone. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I have the feeling that I have a lot of different people. Woohoo! Yeah, that's one. So
I've been clapping for a while. Cool. Yeah, that was really that was fantastic. I think we do have a couple of questions. So
whoa, we have 80 comments. Wow.
Yeah, it's been fairly busy. So a couple of questions. So Mark Taylor has asked 2. So his first question, Junior, is...
Oh, I can read here. Cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sure did.
So do you have a favorite event bus implementation for choreographing your microservices?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Actually, I actually was using the one from the league. Let me get the link here. Leg command bus. It's called it's hard for me to say. Tactician. I can send the link here later. It's very, very, very simple to use. Just install it. It's, for example, it's a composer package as well. You just need to install, and the documentation is very clear, and you can start using it just right after. Yeah. Yeah, it's the one that I like the most, to be honest. It's very easy.
Okay, fantastic. I think we have another question as well. So,
okay, how do you decide when to split up your domain to separate microservice versus keeping things together? Yeah, that's a very hard decision that you have to do, to be honest, because understanding your domain at first, it could be hard. So maybe, for example, like I said, we should avoid partial domain implementations. So that's why you need to understand what your domain is really doing from this part to this part, and you are gonna. I think the easiest way is to start small, right? So, but in the end, let's say you have a legacy application, legacy API, you should have all the microservices that are related to a given domain into a separate place. You can use a monorepo, for example, to share some libraries, to share some code that is important and will be reused by all those different microservices, but in a separate repository, in a separate layer, right? So I would say the domain is it could be a set of different microservices running different logics, but let's say belonging to the same domain. Okay.
okay, I think that was the only two questions that we have. Okay, so
I'm so happy that we can do construct private in. Oh yeah, in PHP 8. No need for private. Oh yeah, please keep the question here. Yes, exactly. For sure. We are actually PHP 8. I think it's on alpha right now, if I'm not wrong, and you already can, for example, can play with it. We have a lot of different and cool features that I am very excited to start using. In the examples I wrote here, I was using PHP 7.4. So we already had, for example, typed properties and etc. But for sure, Derek is right. PHP 8 is gonna rock, and I can't wait to use it in production, to be honest. Why is the user controller a final class? Okay, very interesting question. Because basically, you don't have to extend it anywhere, right? So it's, for example, a way to block or at least to avoid any future problem you can have in terms of other developer, in terms of development, that basically it's a way to prevent someone to be extending that class because it's not needed, to be honest. Okay. Why generator from PHP is not supported by extracting IOUT? I think I didn't understand the question, to be honest. Why generator? Okay, generator from PHP is not supported by extracting IOUT. Man, sorry, I don't know. I don't know the answer, to be honest. Sorry about that. Matt, what tools would you recommend to monitoring microservice? Okay, we are right at GlowFox. We are using New Relic, and we have a lot of different alerts in Slack, and actually we have different teams, and each let's say team is responsible for one or a set of microservices we have. But in terms of monitoring, we are using New Relic, and also we use a lot of different servers from AWS as well. For logs, we are using CloudWatch, and we also use Sentry for capturing in exceptions and stuff like that. Everything's integrated with Slack to make our life easier.
Okay.
That's all the questions.
I think that's it for the questions. So yeah, once again, oh, have we got? Okay, I think it'll be maybe the last question. So
why did your controller class use final instead of private for the class? Private where? Actually, all the class properties by default should be, for example, let's say private by default, right? And I read somewhere that a public method is something like, for example, child. You need to keep it updated, and you need to feed it for the rest of your life. So whenever you can, if you are following single responsibility principle, for example, it would be a good idea to allow your class to have just a single public method. Of course, this would be the perfect world, and sometimes it's very hard. And when we are working with legacy project, this is even harder. Okay. All right.
I think that's good. I think that's maybe all. Okay. So final question. So I'll just I don't know if Dan wants to put that in. So the final question was, so exactly about, so you don't have like an overall dashboard system. So there's no kind of dashboard to see all the microservices on it. I think that's what maybe Matt means.
Yeah. I would say that, okay, it would be, I think this is an answer for our SRE team, to be honest. It's rocking. But I would say that AWS, by the way, we are using Docker containers for all the different microservices we have. And so it's hard sometimes to keep monitoring all those different, for example, containers from different domains in a single place. But as far as I know, AWS has an excellent interface, an excellent dashboard that allows you to see what is happening behind the scenes. But something that is very important, and we are working on it at the moment, when we have some new engineer in the company, it's hard to show how all the microservices we have are communicating, correct? For example, we have A, B, C, how if we are using HTTP requests or if we are just firing an event to the queue. So sometimes it's hard to explain, but it's something that, let's say, a diagram or something would be better to show.
Okay, I think we have 2 more questions. We'll just get them on the screen.
Am I correct in assuming you log all your events using event sourcing? We are using event sourcing in just one microservice we have, along with CQRS. Actually, of course, it depends of the, for example, use case. In our case, we are not logging it in terms of CloudWatch. We have it's right now inside our internal database. I wouldn't say that this is the best solution for sure, but it's how it is at the moment.
Okay, I think this is going to be the final question. Well, we could be here
A
all, we could be here all evening.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Including microservices, I would say it could be, but you need to take care when you are using traits, to be honest, because it could have problems. Let's think in, for example, traits in a way to share behaviors, right? So you could have more than one class doing the same thing, or at least having the same behavior. It could be useful when talking about microservices. When you I would say actually that instead of using traits, it would be better if you can have something like a separate composer package that you could share between microservice to process something, to do something. But I wouldn't use traits in this case to share behaviors between classes entities.
Okay, I think that's it for all of our questions. I think so. So once again, big thanks to Junior. So
thank you so much.
Guessing there's all claps coming from all over the world. So yeah, I mean, I'm just going to do a quick raffle. So like I said at the start, we have 2 discount codes for JetBrains. So you get just a code and then you put it into the when you're in the checkout. So also we usually say you have to be here to win it. So I don't know how many we've got. 20 people here, so you've got a 1 in 20 chance. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. It is so hopefully that will come up. Okay, cool. So hopefully you can all see that. So if your name appears, cool. If you want to, I think the easiest way of doing this. Yeah, if you just want to send me a message or just send a tweet, PHP London. So fingers crossed. Is this going to work? So Paul Marks. So if you're here, just give it a couple of seconds while we wait for Paul to maybe get in contact with us. Okay, let me just do a quick thing here. Just shift that over there. Okay. Is this Mark here? I don't think he's here. Okay, let's do someone else. I think there's George here. I also can't see him in the chat. Is he on YouTube? Okay. Oliver? Is Oliver here? Is anyone here?
Oliver? No.
Again, I can't see Oliver in the chat either. So, Sully, this could be a long evening. Okay.
The first one that finds the name, just say hey or something.
Okay.
Wait. Wow.
Okay. Here's a better way of doing this. Okay, let me just stop sharing this. So, okay, because this might take a while. Okay, what we used to do is just the first person who tweets to PHP London, thank you, Junior.
Thanks so much.
I will then send you. Yeah. So you say thank you, Junior, to send that at PHP London Twitter handle, and I will then send you a direct message, and you can get the discount code. So yeah, if not, we'll be here all night.
Good one.
Okay.
Just to highlight, I will, for example, will tweet the slides of this talk today, probably tomorrow morning, London time. And if you are not following me yet, please do that just to stay tuned. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll retweet them as well. So, okay. Okay. Okay, quick. Okay, sorry, I'm just replying to some people. Okay, so that's pretty much it, I guess, for the talk. We do have a social, so it's not really a pub, but if you want to go to so in the main menu, so next to the main track, if you just want to click on social, there should be a way where you can create a table or join other people, where you can
Cool.
Yeah, so you should be able to create a table or join an existing table if you want to. I don't know if Junior's going to stay around for a bit longer or if he needs to go, but yeah, there'll be more chat there as well. So yeah, so once again, Junior, thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And yeah,
see you next time.
see you all later. Speak soon.
Okay. Cheers, folks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.